السلام عليكم. كيفكم كده؟ هل الصورة واضحة؟ هل الصوت واضح يا جماعة؟ ما في أي إشارة؟ آه لو في أي حد معاي متابع أكون شاكر جدا لو ادانا أي indication بأنه هل في صورة، هل في صوت ولا لا. أيوة. آه سلام يا نبيل. الصوت واضح؟ كويس. إذا الصوت واضح ما عارف هل نبدأ ولا في إشارة محددة عشان أبدأ بيها. هل عبد العظيم معانا ولا لسه؟ حقيقة أنا شوية ما متقدم في حكاية التكنولوجي، فما عارف كيف أتعامل مع البداية. شكرا يا نبيل. أفتكر إنه مع الزمن يفترض نبدأ، وبعد ذاك البيونة ممكن يلحقوا معانا، وبعد ذاك ما بيحضرك بداية ممكن نرجع لها في الفيديو، مش كده؟ أيوة. السلام عليكم و good evening. And I chosen to discuss or to talk about internet addiction because I believe it is a very hot topic, and they have a lot of issues raised about it from moral, from ethical, and from psychiatric point of view. Is still debate is going on, and people are not clear about diagnostic criteria. They are not clear about diagnoses. They are not clear about etiological factor and management plan. So in general, we can say that internet addiction is a hot topic which I believe we need to know about, not only because we are therapists, because I believe that we ourselves are not clear about how we are falling into that, because are we ourselves falling to the criteria of being addicted to the internet without we realized, and what is the line of normalization and what is the line of pathological usage. So all this will be debatable, and that will raise a lot of questions, and I hope today to raise more questions than finding answers, and I believe that will be the beauty of our discussion. Nobody will question today, it is the era of the cyberspace, it is the era of the internet, and if I just briefly tell you about the figures which is going on in life today, you will be surprised that Facebook is now hitting the 2 billion people members. Twitters are approaching the 1 billion, and on every day in the world there is more than 60 billion messages going around the internet between people communicating with each other. So easily we can say this is the era of the internet. It started by a psychiatrist called Goldberg in the early 90s in New York, and it was a joke when he was talking about internet as an addiction, and at that time internet was not as spreading as it is going now. And he put the criteria more or less similar to gambling, and he felt that this is more or less a new form of gambling he was trying to get over. Until later in the 90s, another psychologist called Young, he came with a different definition, which is more or less talking about problem internet usage and not describing it as addiction. And at that time, he was referring to increase resources investing on the internet from time, money, and energy, discomfort people might experience when they are offline, negative impact on work, negative impact on relation, failure on creating new relation after getting into online relation, developing tolerance, and as well developing withdrawal, and on the top of that there is a clear denial about the behavior. So both of them, they felt there is an issue here we need to. And they started to medicalize the picture and started to look into some form of risk factor to develop those form of dependency or this type of abnormal usage. And features like low self-esteem, defense mechanism like intellectualization was described, low self-reliance, and solitary activity as pre-normal trait are associated with these people, restricted social relationship before, and more or less seeking comfort type behavior from that type of people, and started to look into that as some form of a psychopathology. But the question is, people start to say, this is a new era. There's a lot of demand for us to be online, political, social, financial, emotional, and we are a different generation, and this is a new time in our world evolving. Why we are coming here, and why we are talking about it as some form of an abnormal behavior? Well, we all do it now. Even the psychiatrists now, we can ask any one of us how much we are spending time in the cyber world. So, and the question is, cyber world is become like a dream where you can enjoy living in your dream world. Why we are trying to make it some form of a pathology if it is a dream? And then people start to realize that the richness of what you can live on that side, on what we call a dream, and people start to describe two different forms of reality, organic reality and cyber reality. And when you are talking about cyber reality, you can say, life now at the palm of your hand. So I can do whatever I want. I can find an answer for any question. Then why I put an effort? I can entertain myself at any time. Why I should wait? I can socialize at any minute. I don't need to take a taxi or take a bus or drive to get to meet my friend 4 hours or 3 hours. I don't need to wait for a letter to come 3 days, where I can see the person on the spot and I can communicate with them. So what's the problem with that? It's too good to be true. We better enjoy it. So those criticisms from social psychologists started to open the door if we are really has got the right to talk about what is going on as a form of a pathological behavior, or do we need to revise our own terms and terminology when we talk about problem usage? So, and that raised the philosophical question about technology. Is it good or bad? Is there any bad technology? Are we able to say this is bad because some people misuse it? And it started people to realize, okay, then we are talking about the issue of control. Are we able to control our new world, or the new world is controlling us? Is this technology is driving us, or are we driving this technology forward? So the question is, who is controlling what? And that has become more or less the first objective step into looking into this issue. So we have got two worlds. And people then started to question realistically, okay, am I able to enjoy the best out of the two worlds, the cyber world and the organic world? Is it possible we can have this without to pay any hefty price, or is it have to come with a price? With any technology, there is a price coming onto that technology if it's not really being used or misused. Question about relationship relationship, question about morality, question about values. Does it matter? Is it possible that this new technology is producing a new morality to the whole world? So, before we go and answer those questions, it's quite clear here then the question becomes about how can we balance between the organic world we are living in and the other cyber world we are creating to fulfill our own needs. So, what's the difference between waking up to your wife and say good morning and waking up and looking to your WhatsApp and see what is the response you have had from the other side of the world? Yes, maybe we are from that generation, we are more romantic, we are still favor good morning, but are we able to justify to say, no, this is better than to look into your WhatsApp and see what is happening at somewhere else where you create your own world? I think here it is an issue about our own values rather than the issue of pathology or not. So, the question coming here to, are we getting the balance right? Are we able to say, jumping from one world to another, is it coming with any price? Or are we managing to balance between being in the cyber world and the organic world? As I said earlier, this was the first point in which we started objectively to look into the issue. The first thing, social psychology, as psychologists started to look into, are we really a multitask creatures? Are we able to do more than one task with the same form of efficiency? And all psychological tests has proven negative, and in reality has proven that it is not just impossible, it comes with a serious complication. I just give you some statistics, which is in 2014 in USA, they did find that more than 1.6 million crash due to people were chatting on the internet when they are driving. 11 die daily. 660,000 daily they communicate through the internet when they are driving. And they did find that the number of deaths because of the driver involved or the other party involved in the internet when they are driving are 6 times more than drink and driving. So, the price of jumping between the cyber world and the organic world is significant, and it could lead to the degree of losing the human life. Okay, let us go to less serious issues than just death and trafficking and crashes. What about just normal online activity? What about socialization? Socialization in an online activity, it's reduce the human contact, which is more or less an important part in which involve the degree and the quality of emotion we describe. When we meet a person and when we talk to the person, our tone of voice, our body language, our responses, everything will more or less enforced by the response you get from the other person you are communicating with. So, when you are communicating without having that dialogue of feedback on every minute, then the dialogue will be one-sided. And that would lead the phenomena of what they call it an online disinhibition. And what the problem with the online disinhibition, it creates an unrealistic form of communication where there will be, first of all, unrealistic expectation from the listener, as you don't know how they respond to what you are saying, an overinflated response from your own end because you don't measure your own communication compared to the other side. And at the end of the day, a dialogue might be based on your own internal form of projection of your own image. And that is being measured in seeing how much people try to portray a distant image from the real self when they are putting their own profile on Facebook or on Twitter, where they would put what they hope to be themselves rather than what is their true self? And would that reduce the human race of their ability to develop their own personal skill and developing their own social skills? That is a big question. And here, I don't want to dig further to talk to you about abuse and any form of disguise and maladaptive behavior where people go to the internet and put themselves as a different personality in trying to justify some form of abnormal maladaptive personality trait. I am not touching on that area because I am trying to say how this is going to affect the normal people, hopefully like myself and yourself, how that will have an impact in developing ourselves. Another area is violence. They did find that is people who watch violence and more or less become hooked, if I don't want to say overused or misuse the type of gaming or interaction of any form of cyber activity where involve violence, it desensitizes the response of people and individual feel about what is going on. And that is the seriousness of accepting some level of violence because the threshold is being already reached a point of habituation. When I watch and when yourself watch any form of violence in front of you, part of that violence, the component of that violence is the human misery, the pain associated with it. And that is coming as a negative reinforcement, as a form of punishment or a negative reinforcement which would stop you from engaging in that type of behavior. But when you are entering the cyber world from your organic world, and when you are started to accustom yourself to this level of behavior without having the negative reinforcement, your level of threshold and habituation will become more accommodating. And they have noticed a lot of studies has shown an empirical evidence that is new generation are becoming less sympathetic and empathy is becoming less evident than before. So there is a generational shift in our own empathy, in our own feelings. That is due to what we are developing from living in another cyber world. Another area which it is important to talk about, which is cyber sex or pornography. People will go into that site, if we are talking about is as just people who are not hooked to it or not addicted to it, or they are not spending all their time there, just watching a human physical relation into the cyber world, unfortunately, it enforces objectification of the human relationship. A relationship between a characteristic of human body with specific features, specific design, where it becomes a sexual act instead of being a level of emotional intimacy, a physical frustration being expressed in a way of emotional intimacy. It become, on the other hand, it is a hormonal tension relieved by physical attraction and by watching and enjoying visual form of satisfaction. So, and that will become an embedded experience. And people who has been working in the line of marital therapy will see how people started to develop some form of knowledge or understanding or looking into physical relationship as a form of idealized those type of figures and shape and practices where they have seen, which is unfortunately has taken away the emotional side of the physical relation, and it become a physical act, a physical attraction, and unfortunately lead to a lot of disempowerment to the individual, to the female, and they will both become trapped in what we describe as Peter Pan syndrome. They are all become attached to them. A relationship is associated with some physical form of attraction, associated with a form of an age group, and that's always what is portrayed. And it is a pleasure is being experienced by how much that level of unique physical attractiveness associated with those models and with this act. That is taking away a lot of the emotional feeling out of the true relationship between two individuals. So, attachment to the cyber world will become at the expense of detachment of the organic world. And that will have an effect on the sense of belonging, a sense of membership, and sense of accountability. People will say, do I need to feel belong to this organic world? I might not need to be belonging to any country or this world if I am happy in the cyber world. Do I need to have a membership to this world? Do I need to be accountable? I would like, before answer this, just ask yourself a question. Look into if this world is become, every individual is isolated living into his own cyber world. How this world will be in the future. How people will be able to cope. Apart from the suffering which we require, an individual communication, of individual contact, sharing our own sense of belonging to this earth, where we will be able to support each other. Our feeling that is belonging to some place, to some nation, to some people, to some group, which motivate you to make a difference. Now, what keep people are worried about their family, about their colleagues, about their friend, and what we are doing now, teaching and discussing between ourselves as Sudanese psychiatrists, because a sense of belonging to this ethnic group and the concern you have about how to develop and to improve life for this group of people is energizing us and motivate us to be more proactive and do things for others. So the selfish gene, which will be encapsulating us when we are living in a cyber world, will be the ultimate result if we are not being able to live in the organic world and enjoy the feedback of the human interaction. And apart from only the membership and the belonging to the organic world is the accountability of what we're doing. We are accountable for what we do, and we have a responsibility. Look into yourself. If you are not going to fulfill your job today and you are on call, or if I'm not fulfilling my responsibility of coming and talk to you, or your responsibility to your father or to your mother or to your friend or to your neighbor, if you are not accountable in any way to them, can you think about the world where everyone have no responsibility towards other human beings? So, this is, I can feel it is more of a philosophical form of area, and it can create a lot of moral question. But the most important things, we as psychiatrists, we are the one, we should be looking into how this changing attitude, morality and values, how that will affect the near and the new world, because we are the one, we deal with the human spirit. We are the one who we discuss depression, and we are the one who we manage anxiety, and we have never been departed from the philosophical basis of the human needs. And we all know that is like in anxiety, it has been described as a form of just fight or flight. We described it earlier as a form of a moral and a valuable issues in a lot of people, and we have got the existential school of thoughts where it questions the individual existence and identity, and where that could affect their well-being. So overall, with all those questions, if we are encapsulated our individual into their own cyber world and detached from the organic world, can you just imagine the emptiness, the disaster? And I'm not talking about suicidality and the feeling of nihilistic belief about the organic world which will exist, and how that impact on psychological health. Not only the psychological changes which the internet era will cause, let us talk about the physical. I'm sure that is you are familiar to some extent with the neuroplasticity. And for the one who are not familiar, I will just briefly tell you about the neuronal connection in the brain between one center and another. It can be activated and can be more or less become more energized by using that pathway compared to the other pathway, and that will make that connection more shorter, more quicker. So if you are a mathematician, then calculation area with, say, speech area are more or less communicating more frequently. So then if you did an SPECT scan, you will find that is pathway are more quicker, more shorter, and more clearer in those type of people, because they managed to create a clear pathway, a near pathway to communicate those new and more existing activities. So as much as you have got an activity between any two centers, it will enrich the network because it will create too many network to produce a better connection. A very famous study has been done in London taxi drivers, and they did find, strange enough, London taxi drivers, regardless of their level of education, regardless, they have got a very rich connection in the visuospatial pathway where it communicated with visuospatial memory, because London taxi drivers are expected to sit for exam where they would know the shortest route for A to Z before they get the license. So that area of the brain is need to be activated more by using more training, and that's what happened. So by using and utilizing some areas of the brain, we are talking about molding the brain according to the human needs. What happened with people who are living into the cyber world? If that is causing a different molding and different neuroplasticity, a lot of empirical studies has come out and showed a different form of connectivity has been more activated. And not only that, and it is worrying, they did find on the orbitofrontal cortex, there is an increased activation when there is any task associated with gain, and reduce activated on the other hand, which is showing the sign that is they need some form of a feed for increased arousal, and which is associated with addictive behavior. That type of connectivity has been shown to be associated with dopamine hypofunction. And that question has raised too many questions. What are we seeing in the human race in the future? Are we seeing people become more or less a neuroplastic brain where it's being affected with a clear form of dopamine function, with increased need for increased arousal, with some form of addictive pathways? You are all aware about dopamine involvement in schizophrenia, in autistic disorder. I am not referring to a lot of debates stating now, are we living in the cyber world will affect the neurotransmitter makeup of our brain? Are we going to be more autistic? Our behavior would show we might be more autistic, but if these neurological changes will be more evident and it can cause more change to the human race. So we can say easily as a conclusion, living between the two worlds is not coming without an expense. Trying to move between the organic world and the cyber world is not coming without a price. Yes, the price could be cost of living, social relationship, emotional relationship. The cost could be your own life when you lose your own level of attention and your cognitive function when you are living with this organic world, which is, as we said, associated with deaths and car crashes. We discussed about how it affects the relationship, our emotion, our interaction with others, our empathy. Also, we discussed about how it might desensitize our sensation of aggression and how we might become less empathetic than before. So we are, as a psychiatrist, required to be looking into prevention as well as looking into management. So we have got a role, at least at this stage, where to raise the red flag to the society from a responsibility point of view of what would happen if we did not control the moving between the two worlds without a clear pathway where it will make it safer to get the best out of the two worlds. And on the individual level, also, we need to be able to advise people into how to make sure that is not to fall into one part of the dichotomy between the two worlds. We are not keen, and we can't really block and saying cyber world is the whole evil, and we can't say the organic world is the whole heaven, but at the same time, we have to be very clear about where we go from here. I will just give you a quick example of a new software where people will buy their own identity. They pay for it online, and then you start to buy yourself a degree, and you get yourself a job, and you start to buy a house, and you buy a wife, as much, or a husband, according to, and as much as you earn within that community, you start to develop your own position and your own income. And strange enough, this software, they have got their own village where the number is now about 300,000, and people are living there. Everyone wake up from the morning, they go to work, and they do activities, and all online, and they earn point, and this point, it will be transferred to dollars or pound, get into their own account, and the only thing they have got with the organic world, they go and get themselves food and come back again. And even you can get married to one of the IDs on the cyber world you create, and you live with them. So that is where people are going. Another example of how the cyber world is creating now with this sex toy, where people are starting to create some form of a suit where you design that suit where a male and a female, everyone wearing that suits and sitting as part of the world, communicating by pressing on each bodies on the click of the mouse, and they reach their orgasm together, and they are seeing each other at the same time when they are playing this type of relation. So moving to the cyber world is taking from us not only our world, is even taking from us our own intimate form of feeling and communication. So someone will say, I am happy. Why I want to bother? If this is what you are worried about, I don't care. I would like to live this way. So I think is education and orientation about how much that is will affect and have an impact on the quality of your own mental well-being is the major issues we need to raise. Let us come to as more or less to the final of what we wanted to talk today. If we are going to talk about individual who we can describe them as having a problem with, because it caused them some real problem, if we call it addiction or we call it problem use of internet. More or less, if we can describe them, it is a maladaptive form of usage which has an impact on their life. The criteria which is Young has designed on 1995, 1996, where they say it has to last for 12 months, and it has manifests itself in about 7 criteria. And please don't laugh about those criteria when you see that it applied on most of us. And 3 of them are critical for you to seek help. Number 1 is when you start to develop tolerance, when you started to feel you need more time in the cyber world to get the same benefit which you want to achieve before. When you start the number 1. Number 2 is when you develop withdrawal symptoms. You don't need to have a morning shake, but when you started to feel that is not feeling well in yourself, and when you are feeling unable to cope when you stop yourself from the internet for a few days, when you feel discomfort, distress, and unable to be happy, and when you start to be frustrated about that. Yes, I can see Abdul Azim is asking about therapy. I know you are falling to addiction now, but let us come to this in a minute. Yes, not just you. I think all of us, we've fallen with young criteria into some form of addiction, minor or major. So one is tolerance, two is drawn. If that feeling of discomfort, if you've been away from the internet for more than what you normally, if you switch it for a couple of days, the level of discomfort and the level of obsession and anxiety and the fantasy about what is going on when you are not there. And the difficulty number 3 is when you are staying more than what you are intended to. If you are planning to stay for half an hour, how frequent you stay for 2 hours or more. And number 4 is an unsuccessful desire to control. How unsuccessful you desire to control your internet visit, how much you are successful in doing that. Okay? And how much you are, number 5 is progressively you increase your time. And number 6 is how that affect on other activities. Are you still going out for a walk? Are you still going for your football as you used to do? And how much this have an effect on your relationship with other people. And the last one, how much you continue with it, although you realize it's taking your life and have a negative impact on you. So, yes, I will conclude by coming to the point where it's asked, what if somebody came to you and I said to you, yes, I got 3 out of those 7, what I should be doing? Yes, there is a few programs, and most of them based on a CBT model. And is mainly based on about 8 points, which we all need to be careful about, and it's easy to learn. First of all, you need to establish your therapeutic relationship. And you don't need to pathologize the behavior straight away. You need to at least to understand this is a problem behavior more than an illness in its own right. 1. Number 2, you need to identify the degree and the amount of the behavior itself, how frequent and how it really is taken on his life. Number 3 is you need to understand the pattern of this behavior and how this pattern is going on increasing, and how it's been is like a pattern of drinking. You've been drinking a bottle every week, and then it become a bottle every 2 days, and then a bottle every day, and that pattern should be described. And then you need to establish with them the need for change, and you need to document on your assessment what type of areas which is being affected, and that is led for you to make feel that the need for change is become a necessity. Then you started your ABC and how you started to learn to break the behavior. You need to break the pattern based on your client individual skills and where the areas he feels that he is not capable of working, and where there is strengths and where they can use their strengths to break the antecedents and the behavior and the cognition after that. And as much as you are taking away a behavior, you need to look for an alternative behavior. You need to draw with your client an alternative plan of what he should be doing with the time, instead of waiting of I am going to go again back quickly into the internet. And when you reach that point, then it becomes more of an analytical. You try to explore why and the reason, if there is any etiological factors which is enforce the need of being on the cyber world more than on the organic world. And then you started to draw a clear plan of control, and how control should be a form of a collective plan of alternative strategy, how to stop the urge when it is there, and how he will control the time of behavior he indulged into the internet at the time. And the last things, you need to agree with them on what are the signs and the relapse signature, because the most dangerous in the internet dependence or the internet addiction is the idea of, oh, one click, it will never cause a problem. It's like, oh, one glass is not going to get me back into the habit. Has to be looked, and that has to be explored. So overall, if I could just conclude that, I would say that we are not here as a moral guidance. We are not here as a clergy to dictate to people what to do and not to do. We are not here to advise them not to go into the cyber world. It is fascinating that whenever you wanted to see a movie, you can go in. You don't need to get yourself into a car. Whenever you wanted to listen to a music, you can listen to. Whenever you wanted to get an information, you get it. When you want to see your friend, you can see straight away. So it is fascinating. You get your own dream about your own life is in front of your hand in just with the click of a button. It's impossible to say to people, don't indulge into that. Then the message will be, just indulging into that, it comes with a price, and the price would be having a negative impact on your own physical, psychological, emotional well-being in the future. Last word I would say, which is we normally would agree, and we said it to our client when they come for therapy, don't wait for the wave to change direction, but learn how to ride the wave and lead the direction yourself. Don't wait until you become hooked to the internet. Don't wait until the cyber world will take over your life. Don't wait until you empty your organic life, but start from now. Start to draw the line and started to draw some strategies where you wouldn't be hijacked by the cyber world without you realized. Thank you, and that is what I wanted to raise with you today, and I hope that will raise a few questions. And as I said that, oh, by the way, one information, there was one study which has tried citalopram for people who have got internet addiction, and the number was small. Although the response was good, but unfortunately the sample was contaminated sample, where most of the patients have got an underlying some form of high anxiety parameters, and some of them they have got some form of a dysthymic form of presentation and depressive features, although they are not clinically depressed. So in that sense, it was difficult to establish the benefit, but until now there is no pharmacological intervention is deemed to be useful and never been tried, and don't try it because there's no evidence in the literature and there's no evidence on the etiological basis to support that. And thank you, and I'm happy that for the coming 15 minutes, if you have got any query or any question, I would be happy to talk about. Until we get yes, CBT, as I said, it is the therapeutic model which is people are using, and it is helping them a lot into controlling the behavior. As we know that CBT, it can work in any form of behavior as far as the individual is motivated to change their behavior, and it doesn't require a diagnostic guidelines for a disease. Yes, smartphone is making the cyber world is more lucrative, make it more attractive, because you are having the world, the cyber world, in your own hand. So at any time you wanted to jump into the cyber world, it is there available for you to do so. And it's not that, I think is the technology will even progress even further and further. And now with the three-dimensional form of cyber world is coming sooner, it will become more attractive. And I think as much as the technology is becoming more attractive, we are more losing ground for the organic world. I would like you to look into each of us into their own small family, small environment. How much time we spend with our family now compared to what we used to spend? I believe that is most of the family, children either in their own rooms or into their own corners. Everyone is holding their own telephone. Even if they are going out in a car, they are all holding their own cyber world with them. If you are sitting now in a bus, if you are going to in a waiting area, everyone is involved in the cyber world. So people are carrying the cyber world with them. I remember in the past when you are going out, you are traveling or you are waiting, it's a good time where you communicate with other people, where you meet other people, where you know other people. You are in the bus, the first things you do, you say hello to the person who's sitting beside you, and you want to know where they are from and what is their background. You share experience, you share emotion, and you might build a relationship for life. And some people, that was the beginning for even a long life relationship. But now, when you are outside in the organic world, people are not keen to engage with each other because that will deprive them from being into their own world. So they are just living into their own world, in their own cyber world. And if you started to communicate, they will start to block you away because they are more keen to continue into the cyber world they are living in. And as we said, cyber world, unfortunately, no matter what we do, we have to accept the reality of the cyber world is not the true real world, is not the mirror image of your true world. And people has to realize that. And it has a lot of impact of people who are living on the cyber world, who they believe that they can change the real world. Then look into just an example. How many people are now living in the cyber world and living the illusion that by being in the cyber world, they are living the real world as well. How many people who are living in the cyber world and they think that they can change the culture, they can change organization, they can change even political establishment by just being in the cyber world, without realizing that it is a tool, without you understand how much you are in the cyber world and this is not the real world. And people in the cyber world are not a true reflection to their true self. Yes, I think this is a very good point, Muhammad, because in the past, when people start to talk about internet addiction, they used to measure it by the number of hours you spend. But now this has become obsolete and nobody is talking about the number of hours. Number of hours has got no impact on if you are addicted to it or not, because you might need to be on it for academic purposes, for your financial purpose, for your job purpose, and it might be a task oriented. You might need to be there for a specific time to do specific things. It's only become an issue of addiction is not by the quantity of time, it's about how much that will interfere and affect and have impact in your own organic world. So it doesn't matter. I might spend 10 hours and you might spend 2 hours, but your 2 hours are more malignant and more damaging to your own persona and your own psychology and your emotion because your staying there is got a different meaning and how it affects your relationship with your organic world. But if I'm going there clearly in control, knowing what I'm doing, I'm going there for a specific purpose, and I'm coming in a specific time, definitely that is a safe journey compared to your own journey. In that world, I think that it is important to realize. Going back again to your comment, Abdul about the personal impact, yes, but some people will say to you, and who said that is, I do care about being with my family and talk, if that will make me any happier? No, I am happier on my laptop. I remember I given this talk about a year ago in one of our local conferences, and a psychiatrist came to me and said to me, by the way, when you are talking about sense of belonging, I don't want to belong to my country. I want to belong to the whole universe, because I can see my country, a lot of negative things. I don't like my people. I like to be an international form of human being. Why you are putting me into that form of frame? That is, I think, at the end of I said to her, I think that from a moral point of view, philosophical point of view, I have got nothing to say against that. This, you're right. You don't want to be Saudi, you don't want to be Sudanese, it's up to you. It's your organic world, at the end of the day, is not a mandatory for you to live. But the question is, the benefit of your existence in the organic world is not only membership, is accountability. And it is the force and the enforcing form of energy. When you have got the sense of belonging to this group of people or this group of land, how that will help you to develop more as a human being and reduce the selfish gene, which you might encapsulate it in it within your cyber world. And that is the issue which is we are worried about, how much we are concerned that will come a time where every individual, where it will be living into that capsule, where every individual is keen to jump into what they think is their comfort zone in the cyber world they create for themselves. And it might be the whole illusion. The profile picture you draw yourself in Facebook, the quotation which is you put about freedom and justice and truth, and on the other hand, you might be the most psychopath. You are projecting that in a vacuum where nobody will interact with you to enforce the reality that you are not what you are saying. And that's what is missing in the cyber world. In the organic world, you can't really live the lie. So, we are saying that it is important you enjoy the benefit of the cyber world, but at the same time, you are in control and knowing the fact that it is not the real world. It is only part of your own projection. And as much your projection is become closer to reality, how much that will have an impact and positive impact on you and other people as well. An important area where people will always ignore when they come to you with in the marital therapy session about her husband is addicted to pornography. It's not about the moral issues about it. It's not about moving from a physical relationship into some form of an individualistic form of masturbation form of relationship. That is not going to be the major area of concern, although it is an area of concern, but it's not the major. The major area of concern where the understanding of intimacy as a reflection of a physical relation is the form of a high way of expressing emotional tension between two people. And if you take that away from them, if you take the emotion out of it, you objectify the relation. You objectify the other part of the relationship. Then it becomes a relationship with any person who is in front of you reflect another gender for you. So at the end of the day, it becomes a hormonal form of satisfaction due to some form of an objectification form of a human being with an organic features, and that will just show some form of your own fantasy and living a fantasy. And the failure will come when they come to us in a marital therapy session, when they try to project what they have seen in this fantasized form of world into the reality. And at the relationship, it loses its own sense of emotion. It loses its sense of I am engaging in a physical relation because I am expressing my emotional feeling towards you as a person of interest to me. But when I lose that, that means everyone else is become an object and a target for my hormonal discharge. And then this has become a more or less a regression from the human civilization, where it moved from that form of a physical form of a relationship from the time of early animal kingdom to develop a human form of a relation based on emotion and intimacy. It will be a backward step, and it will have an impact on individual as well. I'm not sure if there is any form of, why we cannot consider the cyber world as part of our organic world, meeting new friends and building our new experience and engaging. Yes, I think that could be a good point. Tamadru raised a good point. Why not to use it as another compartment of our new world? We love to do that. And that's where we say, be in control. When you move to the cyber world, aware about who you are, and aware that is people on the cyber world might not portray their true self. But the reality is, even if you managed to get yourself to express and project yourself in the cyber world as consciously as you would like to be, you can't control your subconscious reflection on things you have got in your own self and you project. If you manage to do so, and your subconscious level projection and your conscious level projection was an exact and identical projection for your own true self, how can you be able to ensure that other people are going to project themselves with the same form of clarity or the same form of identically? And even if both of you manage to succeed in doing that, relationship, it can never live in a vacuum. You are telling me a joke, and I don't like it, but in an organic world, it will show in my face, and next time you know that is, I'm not the type of person who enjoy your jokes. But what I will do is a social form of writing ha 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 or putting some form of emojis to show that I am happy and pleased, then that is an enforced part of the relationship, which is a false form of a relationship, which is based on our own projection, not on the true what we have read when we interact on an organic level. When we meet, when I shake your hand, when you don't shake it with the same strength, I can feel that you are not happy because I missed appointment with you yesterday. You can feel that you are angry with me. You can feel you miss me. That is why I will reflect by either become more apologetic or become more keen. So the organic form of communication has got different dimension. It gives you the fact and parameter to measure and to improve the trueness of the emotion and make it more realistic and more truthful. Unfortunately, in the cyber world, no matter how you try and no matter how your other side has tried, it's not possible to do that. And it will be quite difficult to do that. The last question I have got seen is a Tamadr question. I'm not sure if anybody else, I missed their question. I tried to go through them. Abdul Azim, Muhammad, yeah. Okay, I think we are coming to the end of our hour. If it is a time for me to close, please, Abdul Azim, if you are still available, give me any sign. And if there is any question, last question, I could conclude with that. If I haven't seen any sign, that means we're coming to the end of our hour. Yes, Tamadur, I think I'm not here saying that people are doing that because just there is some bad people pretend. But I am saying that even if you are honest and true, but cyber world communication doesn't give you all the factor and the auxiliary where you can measure the trueness of the feeling. And it will be very difficult to be able to build a relationship based on the cyber communication because it will be either words or drawing or pictures reflect on what you wanted me to see. And as I said to you, if I met you after 1 year, the degree of the physical tension between us, which is showed in the way we shake hands and the way we hug each other, it will show how much the emotion, but as well it might show how much I'm angry with you because you did not call me. So, and it showed me how much this happiness and the eagerness, it will give me the energy to give more to you at the time. But when the cyber world will be, I miss you and I miss you very much, it will take away, it will take the zest of the human interaction and it make it a projection of an intellectualizing form of interaction, not reflect our true natural way of interaction, that is what is important. I think we come to a conclusion of our today discussion. I am more than happy if this is being uploaded into our page and there is any question come out of this. I'm more than happy to discuss this further. I am more than happy if we met in UK or in Sudan at any time. We can have a longer workshop. I have got about a 6 hours workshop, which is I have done for my colleagues here, where it cover cyber psychology and the effect of individual, families, and children and different age group. And hopefully the workshop brainstorm people and give us a better understanding, a better question, and we have better answer to this interesting topic, I hope to. Thank you ever so much for all of you, and it's been a pleasure to be with you. And hopefully then what we're given today is raised a lot of questions to do, and that will help you to understand things in the right direction and promote a better, healthy form of interacting with the internet. And thank you. Thank you all.